It's a long, long way to the mountain from the sea, yet it ever stands in the world for all to see. And a challenge lit on the road in front of me, call me farther to the mountain from the sea. In the wilderness, old Sinai firmly stands there, a covenant written with the holy hand, calls a holy folk to the life your love commands. At your voice there came a tremble through the lands. And it's a long, long way to the mountain from the sea, yet it ever stands in the world for all to see. And a challenge lit on the road in front of me, move me spirit to the mountain from the sea.
Hello, and welcome to my home area. I'm George Hamilton IV, and I'd like to tell you about some wonderful things that have happened up in these mountains over the past few years. This is a story about a very special man and some very special friends and neighbors of mine, and some of the most beautiful art to be found anywhere in the world. And finally, about how us folks here in Ashe County, North Carolina, are reaching out and touching the lives of hundreds of thousands of people all over the world. People who are dropping in by the hundreds every week to see our modern-day frescoes, some of the most beautiful since the days of Michelangelo and Da Vinci. Frescoes that have brought love and joy to our local residents, many of them mountain folk, and many of whom have begun to express themselves through painting and sculpture. Howdy.
Hello.
How are you folks?
Thank you.
Good to have you with us.
Nice to be here.
Nice to see you. And it all started with the arrival of Father Fulton Hodge, our local Episcopal priest. I'd like to have you meet him. Hi there.
Hello. Hi.
Pretty day, isn't it?
Lovely.
Welcome to Holy Trinity. There's another group of people going into the church to see the frescoes. In fact, there's so many these days we've arranged a schedule of volunteers to meet with them and tell them the story of the frescoes. When I started out just a minute or two ago, I was going to tell you about Father Fulton Hodge. He's just across the way there with his shirt sleeves all rolled up and putting the final touches on the outdoor altar and baptismal pool.
I'm Fulton Hodge, the Episcopal priest for Ashe and Allegheny counties, serving two small mission churches in Glendale Springs and Beaver Creek. We just put in the final touches on our outdoor altar and pool. This pool will be a place for baptisms, and a place for animals and birds and people can get a drink of water. And over to the side, a place for the biblical ritual of foot washing. A lot has happened since I arrived here just a little over 10 years ago.
We only had 13 members, 2 small churches, and a mission house.
The mission house and the church here at Glendale Springs were totally unusual.
I never will forget the first services in the church when Father Hodge first came. There he was preaching away to just a handful of people. They didn't begin to fill the pews. We did have an organist. She knew 3 hymns by memory, all of which she played with just 2 fingers.
For variety, we would use one hymn to start a service, and then use the same hymn to end the next week's service.
We were mighty small and very poor in those days, but oh, what a loyal band of members we had. And then one night at a party, the miracle started to happen.
Father Hodge was introduced to an artist who had just come back from Europe and was looking for a church where he could do a fresco.
The host of the party called me over to the corner of his living room and said that young man, Ben Long, would like to do a fresco in your church, St. Mary's Church over in Beaver Creek. And I said, we can't afford a fresco. We can't even afford to pay the light bill. We only had 13 members in those days. And he said, oh, he wants to give you one. And I said, we'll take it. What's a fresco?
A fresco is a form of art that has not really been used to any degree for several hundred years, and virtually not at all in this country. A mural is painted on the surface of a wall, but a fresco is actually a part of the wall. The pigments and colors are mixed into the wall surface material, with the colors penetrating through the plaster mix.
The real beauty of a fresco comes with age. That's when the colors become more vivid.
Ben asked me what I wanted him to paint, and my response was that I felt that he should do his own thing. And he said, "Do you have a favorite Bible verse you'd like for me to interpret?" And I said, "No." And then he said, "Do you have a favorite saint that I would like for him to paint?" And I said, "No." And he said, "How the heck did you become a priest?" We were standing there against the front pews near the altar, and he said to me, "I feel a great expectancy about this place." And my response to him was, "This is St. Mary's Church. Why don't you paint her expecting?" His eyes got real big. His wife was pregnant with their first baby, and he used her for the model. The face was a little unknown mountain girl.
Work on the fresco began in 1973 in St. Mary's Church, with artist Ben Long working literally around the clock, since a fresco, once started, must be completed quickly.
When Mary Great with Child was completed, we knew that a very powerful force was working with us.
King of kings, yet born of Mary, as of old on earth he stood, Lord of lords in human vesture, in the body and the blood, Christ our God to earth descendeth, our full homage to demand.
Following the completion of Mary Great with Child, the artists and volunteers from the community began work on another fresco, John the Baptist. Next, we're going to the Mission House and then over to the Holy Trinity Church to see the full wall fresco of the Last Supper. This is Holy Trinity Church in Glendale Springs, the second of our fresco churches in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. This small church was built around 1900 and was used until 1934 and then left vacant. When Father Hodge came here in 1972, he found this church in total ruin. The back wall was falling out, the grass lawn had turned to high weeds, and there were junk cars all over the place. Through a near miracle, Father Hodge received a donation from a visitor that just happened to be in the area to be used for the purpose of restoring the church. So, with the help of Doug Schwartz, they repaired the church, and there you see the end results.
What a blessing to have Doug Schwartz here in Ashe County, for it was he who almost single-handedly took on the project of building this church and the Mission House.
We only had $100 to start out with to buy the materials to build this largest fresco, the Last Supper.
We had artists from Europe and this country and local volunteers, and with a team organized by master artist Ben Long, who has been responsible for most of our frescoes, they launched into the fresco of the Last Supper.
Once they started the fresco, they couldn't stop, and Ben had to stay on a scaffold behind the altar during the church services.
When the local residents heard about the work on the fresco, they began to bring in food from their gardens and other supplies to help us maintain these people here. Because these artists had come with the promise of no more than a bowl of soup and a place to sleep. And the local volunteers came and gave long hours of their time as they posed for the various disciples, loving and caring for one another, giving of themselves, thereby serving God and mankind.
That last night at supper lying, me and the 12 his chosen band, Jesus with the law complying, keeps the feast its rights demand. Then the more precious food supplying, gives himself with his own hand. Word made flesh, true bread he maketh, by his word his flesh to be. Wine his blood when man partaketh, though his senses fail to see. Faith alone, when sight forsaketh, shows true hearts the mystery. Amen.
Except for the face of Jesus, artist Ben Long used local people to model for the Last Supper. We have several of them here with us, and we'd like for you to see those beautiful comparisons. While I no longer have a beard, I pose for the servant, which is fitting, I guess, for a priest.
Because of the sincere beauty of the frescoes, Ashe County has become one of the major art attractions in the United States. In fact, the whole world, for that matter. As we've said before, multitudes of visitors come here daily, people from all over the world, to see the frescoes and to hear about how they came into being. From a simple beginning, just a few years ago, to this year, when an estimated 250,000 pilgrims will visit Ashe County, North Carolina, once an area of Appalachian poverty, now changing into a location of spiritual and economic growth. Through this Renaissance, a Renaissance in Ashe County. Next, we'll visit our Mission House art exhibit and then see the outstanding full wall fresco in St. Mary's Church just a few miles down the road in Beaver Creek, the Mystery of Faith fresco. This is the Mission House, serving as the church office as well as a place of residence for Father Hodge. But the most interesting thing is its dedication to serving others. Besides being a meeting place for groups from all over the area and being an overnight refuge for unfortunate travelers, this building is home for a very unique art collection. For inside is a wide variety of paintings and crafts prepared by local residents of Ashe County and the surrounding mountain areas. Arts and crafts from people, many of whom had never before tried painting or sculpting or fine wood carving.
As a result of the frescoes being here, several thousands of people come to visit this place each month. So we've opened up the Mission House to the various artists and craftsmen of the area to show their works and to sell them here. We have many wonderful artists and craftsmen of various sorts here in these mountains. There are a lot of potters here who use the local clays and the local pigments to make their works. Here's a very lovely vase done by a person who is a member of the congregation. And mountain music is quite a thing here with us. This is a dulcimer, and it's a rather unique instrument to these mountains. They make violins and auto harps and harps as well. And during the winter, many of our mountain women like to sew and make these beautiful quilts. Really lovely work. And we have a group of artists called the Blue Ridge Art Clan, and they sell and paint here in the Mission House. Here's a lovely work done by a local resident, and she has chosen the Holy Trinity Church as her subject. And here is another type of work done by a local painter who's had very little training. We would call this a primitive art form, and we sell much of her work here. Isn't that right, Oza?
Yes, Father Hodge. Our work in art never stops, for this is a form of offering from us to God.
For through the talents which He gave each of us, we're now able to perform a ministry that starts here in Ashe County and extends throughout the world.
At this very time, we're working on a new fresco, a fresco that depicts the Holy Family. And we'd like to give you an opportunity to actually see a fresco being made.
Possibly our most outstanding fresco, at least if we are to judge how they seem to affect the pilgrims who come here, is the Mystery of Faith fresco here in St. Mary's Church. In the Anglican Church, there is a portion of the Eucharist which declares that Christ is died, and Christ is risen, and Christ will come again, which is known as the Mystery of Faith. Artist Ben Long, who now resides in Europe, has portrayed and interpreted for us in this fresco our mystery of faith.
O Lamb of God, that takest away the sins of the world, have mercy upon us. O Lamb of God, that takest away the sins of the world, have mercy upon us. O Lamb of God, that takest away the sins of the world, grant us thy peace.
We appreciate having an opportunity to show you some of the wonderful things going on here in Ashe County. There's a footnote or two that you might find of interest, and it certainly gives us local folks a thought or two as well. When artist Ben Long was finishing the fresco of John the Baptist, and just before the surface had dried, a tremendous clap of thunder during a sudden storm violently shook the church and caused the fresco to crack. John the Baptist was beheaded in real life, and the fresco was cracked across the neck. And in searching for a model for the face of Mary and following much prayer, Ben Long used a stranger he saw on the street for the facial sketches, a young girl who said her name was Mary. She's a young girl as well who local residents can't seem to place or even remember. And our congregation now measures over 300 people, a real testament to the work of God in these mountains. Thank you for joining us, and when you're in the area, we hope you'll stop by Ashe County and experience our Renaissance. A Renaissance of art, a renaissance of love, and a renaissance of people sharing with other people.
Don't save your light for the right time, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Don't save your light, lift it up and cut the night, and let it shine from your heart, let it shine. In the hollows of the mountains, where the shadows like to fall, the dark woods hold my spirit from the day. For the light brings forth the colors as the sun warms up the air, and the day becomes victorious overnight. So don't save your light for the right time, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Don't save your light, lift it up and cut the night, and let it shine from your heart, let it shine. Let it shine from your heart, let it shine.